Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Davilo, and today we are going to be discussing the Industrial Revolutions. Yes, there were more than one of them, as well as the current one that we are in, which I personally refer to as the Cyber Era when I am talking with my students in my ethics course. So, before we get into what the four different types of industrial revolutions are, I always refer back to this. Actually, this is a quote that I remember from Civ 5 whenever I was playing that extensively. So, this is a quote by Emily Greenblock, and she said that industrialization based on machinery, already referred to as a characteristic of our age, is but one aspect of the revolution that is being wrought by technology. And that last part is really what has been driving the beginnings of these new industrial revolutions that we've experienced since the 18th century. The and what I mean by that is it's all about the technology, and it's not just a direct impact, but it's also the indirect impact on both the how we develop products and also how society develops as a whole. So the first revolution is said to have taken place in the United Kingdom sometime in about the 18th century, and this was because of the invention of steam power, which allowed us to actually begin the process of what is known as mass production. But also there was another issue that came about, and this also had a direct consequence on the industrialization that occurred because of this, and that is worker politics. So worker politics is essentially what happened where women were forced out of the industry because it was decided to turn it into a male dominant workforce in order for class allocation, let's just call it that. Steam and mechanized production allows for greatly increased capacity and productivity, leading to urbanization, growth of regional and global markets, and a rising middle class in this era. And it also drove changes to academic and scientific fields, desiring to grow even further, which eventually led into the Second Industrial Revolution. So the Second Industrial Revolution took place sometime between 1867 and 1914, and with it, science and technology became the main point of focus, as it was to be that the thing that would propel humanity forward. At least that's what people started to believe. So some of the innovations that we got in this era included standardization. We got precision manufacturing, electricity, we got telecommunication, mass production. These are just some of the things that came about with the Second Industrial Revolution. And unfortunately, many of these things would be used in both of the world wars on both sides of the battlefield. After World War II, the Third Industrial Revolution began. Now, there is some debate as to when exactly this began. Some say that this began in 1947, just before the start of the Cold War. Others say that it took place as late as the 1970s. Regardless, the majority of the Cold War is considered the Third Industrial Revolution. And some of the big things that came about because of this timeline. We had the double helix structure of DNA. I'm a biomathematician, so this is a huge deal for biomathematics as a whole. We also had atomic energy and the development, not just as a weapon, but actually as a source of power and fuel. We had the space race, satellites, computers. Things are really starting to look up, and not only is our technology getting more advanced, but it's also starting to slowly become smaller. That being said, it wasn't until the fourth revolution, the one that we are currently in, that really brought about being able to do many huge things, extremely powerful and but extremely computationally expensive things for very cheap. In today's day and age, we have buzzwords: big data, artificial intelligence, cloud computing. We have advanced robotics now. We have the internet. We have digital worlds. And as I've mentioned, I refer to this as the cyber era. Everything is moving towards a digital framework, and in some shape or form, we are transitioning to a more digitized society. And we're not done. Some have argued that there is likely a fifth revolution coming along soon. The revolution might look something along the kin of humans and robots working together on projects and designs while sharing workloads. So you can think of this as sort of the singularity that you may have heard about from artificial intelligence, but don't be concerned, we are nowhere near the Terminator robots running around seeking mass extinction of humanity, if we even get anywhere remotely close to that in the first place. Now, the all of these revolutions, they all have similar things in common, and they are, of course, all distinct in their own right, but every single one of these revolutions that we have had so far in history have allowed us to create new products that would have been impossible to make in the past. They've allowed us to mass produce these products, and they've also significantly reduced the cost and time spent to create these products. So we are able to do significantly more with significantly less now. That being said, every single one of these has had major consequences. So, in general, they've all greatly increased the cost of warfare ever since the 1700s. Additionally, workloads have increased, and wages, in some cases, have not. We saw this especially during the time of the Great War, where wages were slashed and taxes were raised to fuel the war machine in Europe. And in regards to what we are dealing with today, in the cyber era especially, privacy is greatly reduced. Social media, YouTube, smartphones, our information is out there. And half the time, we don't even know it's out there. Another question is, and this is another concern that I have especially because I'm a big gamer, do we actually own our digital libraries? So if I bought a game, what says, and I own it in my digital library, what says that I'm going to continue to have access to that game 10 years from now? And then there's the elephant in the room: artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is its own concern. It essentially, what AI is it's the ability for a machine to think as though it were human. At least ideally. That's the theoretical concept of AI. In reality, it is an attempt to replicate the active neurons inside the human brain. And while AI is extremely powerful, it is limited in what it can and cannot do. Nonetheless, it is a massive concern from an ethical perspective, and I'm not referring to the Terminators or Skynet or anything like that. We are nowhere near that point, as I've said. But instead, I'm referring to how to use it. And if we're not careful with how we train or how we use AI, we can easily put people's personal information and privacy at risk. And I actually talked about this in a recent article that will hopefully be published soon in my local newspaper's new magazine, the 706. I talk about some of the things that we can do to help prevent AI from becoming a massive ethical concern. So, how do we deal with it? Well, first of all, don't simply copy and paste what is generated by the AI. That's not very smart to do. Similarly, you need to be able to understand how to ask it the right questions. And not only that, but you also need to be able to know the questions that you are asking. You need to be able to use the AI to augment your thought process, not necessarily use it to think for you. And also, we should not simply just plug our information into ChatGPT. These are very simple bullet points here, but I think that even with this, we can still be easily overwhelmed. We can't just simply ignore AI and pretend it doesn't exist. It's here to stay. And as a result, we should be educated in that, and that is something that I am personally working to ensure that my students are aware that they live in an era of AI now, and their life is going to change because of it. How do they prevent AI from completely ruining their life, but instead enhancing it? And with that, I am done for today, so thank you so much.